Hey everybody, this is Steve Krause. I'm coming at you the Monday after break, which isn't much of a break for me at all. It's one crazy thing after another going on, both in school and in life, and also in terms of this class. So I wanted to give you a brief update on where we're at with the schedule, literally as I speak at 11 something on Monday right after break. And there's some details below here, but let me just tell you a little bit about why things are in disarray, or kind of in disarray. The first reason is there's been an unusual number of students who have kind of disappeared in one fashion or another. It's kind of thrown off some group dynamics. And so I decided that I needed to change the schedule because that really wasn't necessarily fair for people asking people to be done the content strategy stuff the Monday after break, especially when things were kind of like thrown off a little bit. The second sort of dynamic that's happening here is I think there's some people who need some extra time with the XHTML, CSS stuff. And so I wanted to give people that. And then the third thing at play here is the HTML5 thing, which I'll talk about in a second. So literally, I know what we're doing this week, and that's what you can see below here, and we're going to stick to that. Let me just hit a couple of highlights about that. If you are still working through this book and the exercises in it, the HTML and the CSS exercises all the way to the end, and they're not done yet, then you and I need to schedule a time to meet, either in person or online, because it's really critical that you finish this for me to feel, and for you to feel like you've gotten the stuff that you need out of this class, and that you can create some of the content that you're going to have to create for the second part of the term in response to the content strategy assignment. Okay, so this is really critical. So I want to make sure that everybody's through this this week. Okay, and if it means meeting with some people face to face, or some group things and things, or just talking about this back and forth online, so that we'll be doing that now. Hopefully, so I'll give you until Friday of this week to finish up the content strategy reports, and hopefully that we'll be able to sort that all out even with people being gone. The second part of that assignment is essentially individual. So once you're done with the collaborative project, then you'll be individually working on things that you'll be developing as part of the content strategy. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the week and as we get into next week. Okay. So like I mentioned, the first thing that's throwing people off a little bit, well, it's not the first thing, it's one of the things that throw people off a little bit is this thing. The second thing, or not really the second thing, but one of the other things that's throwing people off a little bit is the sort of missing persons thing, and that's why I extended the deadline, the content strategy. The third thing that's throwing me off is this. Okay, now I gotta tell you something. This HTML, CSS stuff, I think this is really important for anybody who's going to go out in the world, make web pages, even if you're just using stuff like WordPress, even if you're just using stuff like Dreamweaver, that you have a handle on this, because this is how the web works. This is hard. This is really throwing me for a loop. And this is, it says programming, and that's no joke. There's a lot of sort of JavaScript kind of programmy, computer geeky kind of stuff. I know. They walk you through it pretty well, and maybe for some of you who are better at computer stuff than I am, or people who are better at math than I am, this might not be such a bad thing. But I guess is what I'm getting at is this. This, you got to be done with. There's just no question about it. This, we're all going to be kind of working at this together. And if you kind of get the hang of it, but you don't completely get it, that's not the end of the world, if that makes sense. Okay? So we'll finish the first one, the book that I keep holding up, the first part, and that's got to be all settled out this week. And then we'll move through this together for the second part of the term. I guess what I'm trying to get at is I'm trying to both warn you and comfort you. And what I mean by warning is this is hard, at least for me, but also comfort you in the sense that, if you don't completely get this part, it's not the end of the world. We'll all make it through together. I hope that kind of makes sense. Now, the last thing I'll mention is, and then of course we're going to keep reading this book this week too, which is much more straightforward, and you'll see how this is useful for developing content for the content strategy assignment. Now, the last thing I'll mention is, by the end of this week for sure, hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, I will have a schedule figured out for the rest of the term. I promise you. And then we'll know exactly where we're at when all the other assignments are due for the end of the term, and everything will be back on pace. Scout's honor. So we'll do a little sort of recovery dance from the sort of chaos of winter break and everything else, and we will make it through the other side. I promise you. Okay, I think that's it. Up. See you online.